Hi there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maria Victoria Perez. I'm a new language coach and teacher of English, and today I want to talk to you about a very important topic that we all suffer from and that it's key to learn. And this is the concept of confidence. Have you ever struggled with confidence when speaking English? So if your answer is yes, you're not alone. Confidence is a journey that is filled with ups and downs, successes, challenges, but most importantly, growth. And this is the message that I want you to take away from this whole video, that to build the confidence to speak English, we're going to be in a journey, we're going to have to engage in a journey with ups and downs that will lead us to growth. Now, what I want us to do also here is to talk about grounded confidence. We're going to explore this topic or this concept that Brene Brown describes as a messy journey of learning, unlearning, practicing, failing, and surviving a few misses. In this video, we're going to dissect the essence of grounded confidence, but also I'm going to give you the tools and the steps that you need to take in order to build your confidence when it comes to speaking English. So are you ready? Do you want to build your confidence? If your answer is yes, keep on watching because you will love this class. So like I said before, grounded confidence implies a journey and implies a process. So when we are learning the language, we are engaged in this process, but we also need to be flexible enough to be willing to unlearn and get rid or let go of old habits. Let me give you an example. So let's say that you learned how to respond to the question, "How are you?" with a simple "I'm fine," which is okay. But one day you are at work and an international colleague arrives, you ask the colleague, "How are you?" and he simply states, "I'm good." Now your brain is going to be engaged in this process of expansion. Now you are learning a new word or a new expression, maybe a more colloquial expression, maybe an expression that is even more used than the one that you knew before. So in this process, you will have to let go of certain things that you previously learned that might have been wrong in some cases, or in other cases a little bit old. And this is the case also with pronunciation. This thing of the brain adjusting, expanding to new ways of knowledge is very common with pronunciation. At that moment, your brain expands and it has to adapt to new information, letting go of old habits. This process is not just about learning and unlearning. It's about practicing. It's about being courageous and also vulnerable at times, because you're going to build confidence with practice. You are confident at something that you have mastered. To master a skill, you need to use it. So in order to use or get to that level of mastery, you will have to rely on courage and also vulnerability. Because you're going to be willing to make mistakes. You're going to be willing to learn from those mistakes. And you're going to be willing not to feel embarrassed for making mistakes. So in short, I would say that grounded confidence reminds us that we need to stay determined even when English or this process gets messy. So the next step is, how do we become more confident when speaking English? So you can build your confidence by practicing the fundamental skills through disciplined practice. And I'm going to repeat a few keywords here. Fundamental skills disciplined practice. Much like athletes do, they refine the fundamentals from day one of their training. You have to master and practice, keep on repeating and practicing the basics of the language, and then have the courage to use them even when it feels a bit uncomfortable. And like I said, this is when courage comes in, but this is also when growth happens. This deliberate practice is your gateway to confidence. But remember that becoming fluent speakers of English isn't easy. And actually, we know from research from the neuroscience that effective learning has to be challenging. Actually, David Rock talks about desirable difficulty. Your brain needs to feel a little bit uncomfortable in order to learn. Speaking English requires effort and a lot of courage and also vulnerability, especially when you are using English at meetings or during presentations. Now, when you are in those places and you feel that you are that emotions have taken over, basically that maybe you feel scared, you feel anxious, like all the emotions that you're feeling are not positive, you can put into practice these two strategies that I have for you. The first one is to label the emotion. By labeling, I mean naming what you feel. I know it sounds like very simple, so simple that it's kind of crazy to think that it has a positive effect, but research shows that by mentioning how you're feeling, it really reduces that arousal of the limbic system, those emotions, and frees up the prefrontal cortex to think more clearly. So basically what happens is, for example, as follows. You are in a situation that you feel scared and your limbic system is aroused because you feel scared. There's some threat that you perceive in that situation. Because your limbic system is aroused, your prefrontal cortex, which is the one in charge of making decisions, reasoning, speaking, English, like really thinking about what you're going to say, that part of the brain and doesn't have as many resources as it could have because the limbic system is aroused. When we label, yes, we are engaging the prefrontal cortex, and because we are engaging the prefrontal cortex, the arousal reduces, and therefore we can think more clearly. So that's one strategy. Now, if you are really aroused, like you are really scared, that might be not enough. If that is not enough, you can also use this other technique called reappraisal. I was introduced to this technique by David Rock. By reappraisal, what we mean is to um, have a different perspective of the situation, of what's going on. Maybe the perspective that you can take on is to think and remind you that the level of English mastery that you now possess doesn't define your worth. You're actually trying or striving to communicate as much as you can, even though your English is a work in progress, and that is a courageous act in itself. This shift requires